within the RSS family, the political family of Hindu nationalistic organizations, for them demography has been a major political issue.
And who allowed it to happen? So it's a failure of the government. Therefore, they should do there some introspection. Nobody said anything political. Okay, look, we have been asked, and if we want to increase our numbers so that we capture political power.
Islam is against family planning.
There is a general perception, both among the Muslims and among the non-Muslims, that Islam is against family planning. Now, from 10%, they have become 14%. To become a majority, they have to become 51%, which means they need.
Hello and a very warm welcome to The Federal. I am Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay and you're watching Off the Beaten Track. On the 15th of August, it is Independence Day speech from the Red Fort in New Delhi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced the government's decision to form a demographic commission.
मैं आज देश के सामने एक चिंता, एक चुनौती के संबंध में आगाह करना चाहता हूं। षड्यंत्र के तहत, सोची समझी साजिश के तहत देश की डेमोग्राफी को बदला जा रहा है। जब डेमोग्राफी परिवर्तन होता है, सीमावर्ती क्षेत्रों में डेमोग्राफी में परिवर्तन होता है, तब राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा के लिए संकट पैदा होता है।
A high-powered demographic commission, to use his precise, phrase. Now, as we all know, demography and the BJP and its affiliated organizations within the RSS family, the political family of Hindu nationalistic organizations, for them demography has been a major political issue. That is what has been flogged for several decades. So we are going to be talking about why is this being talked about at this time? What does the Prime Minister mean by a demographic challenge for the country, which makes it imperative to establish a demographic mission? And what is the politics behind it? Now, I am going to be talking about all these issues to Mr. S.Y. Quraishi, who, as we all know, has been a career civil servant, someone who held various important positions, and then eventually went on to become the Chief Election Commissioner of India. Welcome to this program, Quraishi Saab. It's really a pleasure to speak to you once again on this program. Quraishi Saab, let me, thank you first of all for being on this program and speaking with us. Let me first repeat a few things which our viewers may also have missed out from Mr. Modi's speech on the 15th of August.
और ये घुसपैठिए मेरे देश के नौजवानों की रोजी रोटी छीन रहे हैं। एक घुसपैठिए मेरे देश की बहन बेटियों को निशाना बना रहे हैं। ये बर्दाश्त नहीं होगा। ये घुसपैठिए भोले भाले आदिवासियों को भ्रमित करके उनकी जमीनों पर कब्जा कर रहे हैं। ये देश सहन नहीं करेगा और कोई देश अपना देश घुसपैठियों के हवाले नहीं कर सकता है। दुनिया का कोई देश नहीं कर सकता है, तो हम भारत को कैसे कर सकते हैं? हमने एक हाई पावर्ड डेमोग्राफी मिशन शुरू करने का निर्णय किया है। ये मिशन, इस मिशन के द्वारा ये जो भीषण संकट नजर आ रहा है, भारत पे मंडरा रहा है जो संकट है, उसको निपटाने के लिए तय समय में सुविचारित सुनिश्चित रूप से अपने कार्य को करेगा। उस दिशा में हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं।
Behind this unspoken idea of demographic change happening is this statement, this allegation that there is a conspiracy of Indian Muslims to alter the demography of the country, that they are part of a global network which is aiming to reduce the Hindus in this country into a minority. Now, let me first go back to your book to get a general sense of, when you decided to write this book. This would have been obviously some years before 2021, which it had started, by which time demography had become a major, political plank of the Sangh Parivar, of the BJP, and of Mr. Modi, of course, personally. Why did you decide to write this book, and what were your motivations?
Well, Nilanjan, there was no political provocation or anything.
Certainly.
I started it in 1995, totally incidentally. I had worked with the UNFPA for just a week or so on a consultancy for Haryana and Women's Project, and they probably thought I had the potential to write a strategy paper on population in Islam. So they came to me and they said that we would like you to write an approach paper for promotion of family planning among the Muslims, and we would like you to do that. So I was quite surprised because I told them that never been in health and family planning ministry, nor am I a scholar of Islam. I was as ignorant as most people in the rest of the country, and I really thought that Muslims have, if Hindus have 2 children, Muslims have 10 children. That was my perception also. But when I started studying the subject, only for a paper of 35 pages, I came to a totally revealing conclusion that actually things had changed. There may have been a time when Muslims are producing more children than any other community, but I found that all number one, all everybody was adding to the population, and Muslims are probably a bit more, but not just a bit and not very large. So, and then I started analyzing NFHS 1. At that time, it only NFHS 1 had come, National Family Health Survey 1 had come, which comes every 5 years. And that also showed that Muslims are adopting family planning faster than all other communities. They're lagging, they're still behind. Even today, they are a bit behind, just a bit behind. But the way they have caught up, and the way they are adopting family planning, there was hardly anything for me to recommend to the Muslims to adopt family planning because they had already done it, they were already adopting it. In any case, I came out with that paper in which I analyzed that actually our population policy is doing a good job. Every community is adopting family planning, though slowly. Even now, it is only 50%, mind you. 50% of India does not practice family planning still. Yet, after the 5 NFHS surveys of over 25, I wrote the book only 3 years ago. By then, NFHS 4 had come. NFHS 5 came after its publication, and I have just updated a few figures. So now, at that time, the rhetoric, the common narrative, the hostile narrative was that Muslims produce too many children. They are responsible for population explosion, and
Right.
they are therefore enemies of the nation, and so on and so forth. And very top leaders were saying, "Hum panch, hamare 25, hum char,
Right.
hamare 40," which meaning that I have 4 wives, that make me 5, and I have among us we have 25 children. This is something which was said by the very top leaders of the country. I found that this to be totally fallacious because for one thing, that in India polygamy is just not possible. It because हम पांच हमारे 25 implies that all Muslims are practicing polygamy and they have 4 wives. Now polygamy, even 2 wives, is just not possible. And why? Because there are no women. And what does that mean? The gender ratio is adverse for the last 30, 40 years, or in fact
You
for 100
you
years.
have you were from the Haryana cadre of the Indian Administrative Service, and Haryana has the worst gender ratio. I
Yes,
have seen that, as to how it, as a
correct,
reporter, I know that what we have seen happening
correct,
because of very few women there.
correct. For 120 years, the gender ratio has been adverse. And the last census, which was 2011, the best gender ratio was 940 to 1 women to 1,000 men.
Right.
What does it mean? That out of 1,000 men, 60 men will not even get their first wife. So where will I get my second wife? The women do not exist. So therefore, this is totally absurd and wrong and mischievous argument. And in fact, on the basis of that book, I had come out with a small booklet, and where the heading was, "Are Muslims overtaking the Hindus?" Because I've seen many videos where there has been a call for genocide, where the people said that in 5 years our next prime minister will be a Muslim. These kind of provocative slogans deliberately to create anger and hatred against the Muslims has been done even by very responsible people, or should I say very irresponsible top leaders. So therefore, up now, when you say that prime minister has made this announcement, now I agree with him that if it is anything is happening, any demographic disturbance is happening because of infiltration, it should be stopped. It should have been stopped. And who allowed it to happen? So it's a failure of the government. Therefore, they should do there some introspection. So why has it been allowed? And whether it has improved in the last 11
Now, the
years?
government has been in office for 11 years, so it cannot blame it on the doors of their predecessors. After all, for 11 years is a long enough time to stop
Yes.
infiltrators.
And
Why was not
correct.
this a demographic mission thought about early?
Correct. And in fact, not just these 11 years, even earlier, the BJP has been in power for 6, 7, 8 years,
Vajpayee was there
from
for
1998 to
same.
2004. And in
That's
fact,
right.
the national population policy, the latest policy was in 2000, which came in the time of Prime Minister Vajpayee. So
That's right.
this problem has been engaging national attention. And the target which they had set for zero rate of growth, or replacement,
So,
population replacement at 2.1, was set for 2010. But we were a few years late, about 17, 18, 19. We have achieved the replacement rate of 2.1, which
so
means there
would
will be no net addition.
So, would you say that in the course of your research, you found that there is no conspiracy of either Islamic organizations in the world or of Muslims in India to try to, become more than the number of Hindus in this country and bring about some kind of an inversion of ratio in the country? There is no
Yes,
such plan.
yes, good question. I investigated it. And originally, it was supposed to be only a secondary data collection and desk research. But to find an answer to the important question that you raised, I did a primary study in 3 places. In
Yes.
Alwar, Mewat area of Rajasthan, Alwar, in Lucknow, and in Hyderabad, to see why Muslims are not adopting family planning as much as they should. And we asked them the question. It was only addressed to those who were not adopting family planning. So why are you not? 70% of them said that this is against our religion. Nobody said anything political. Okay, look, we have been asked, and if we want to increase our numbers so that we capture political power. Not one such reference I came across. If you come across, please share with me.
No, I haven't
All right.
either.
So therefore, which again gave me the impression that the task is quite easy. If the people who are not practicing family planning believe that it is because Islam doesn't believe in it, so that is a wrong perception, and it is very easy to correct it. You only have to educate them, and tell them, inform them what is the
Right.
true Islamic position. And you would notice that in my book there is an entire chapter on what Islam says on family planning.
Right. In fact,
Nowhere
that is
in
the
the
most important thing. I knew that the popular perception which is there that Islam is against family planning, that it is not
yes,
to be a practice which is to be not to be followed by them, is something which actually I have seen right from the 1970s, especially during the emergency and when the sterilization drive was on. That entire which the demolitions which happened in the Turkman Gate area. It got somehow the other linked up with all kinds of politics. And then finally, when elections were held in 77, a large number of Muslims voted against the Congress and was responsible for one of the factors for the defeat of the Congress and Indira Gandhi personally. So from that time onwards, there's this feeling that Islam is against, family planning. You ask
Yes.
10 people, 9 will say that they don't believe in it's against their religion. But what is the real truth? What did you find? I am asking you this
Yes.
because, as you explained, you are not a theologian, so you also, learned about
Yes.
it through the course of the research of the book.
Correct. So you rightly said that there is a general perception, both among the Muslims and among the non-Muslims, that Islam is against family planning. And when I discovered that that is the reason which is holding Muslims back, to the extent they are being held back, that is easy to dispel because I have analyzed in that chapter on Islam. Because first of all, Quran is a complete way of life, and it tells us what to do, or how to earn money, or how to look after your parents, and everything of your every aspect of your life is covered. And it has made sharab haram, drinking liquor is haram, taking interest is haram, the sex outside marriage is haram. So everything which is forbidden is very explicitly forbidden. Whereas family planning has not been prohibited in the Quran.
Islam.
And in fact, there is one ayat of the Quran which says that whatever we wanted to prohibit for you, we have explained to you in detail. Allah is saying that whatever I wanted you to not to do, I have already explained to you. And there was not a word, not a line against family planning. A true position of Islam, you have read it because I wrote it as a chapter, but is it going to our family planning workers? Suppose you are a family planning worker and you come to me, Quraishi, you have a large family, you have 8 children, 10 children, and therefore this is bad for you. And I give you just one line reply. Okay, look, Nilanjan, this is against my religion.
Hmm.
I don't think you will have any argument because you can't argue against
So you
religion.
can't argue on that basis.
And because you do not know that what I'm saying is wrong factually, once you're equipped as a health educator, as a family planning worker, okay, look, this is wrong, so at least you will confront
Do
me.
you
Okay, no.
do you think that one of the reasons for this is primarily in India, the interpretation of Islamic law has been in the hands of the theologists,
Yeah.
the Maulanas, the mullahs, the people who are in charge of various Islamic seminaries. Is this the reason?
Yeah, that could be the reason. But at the same time, to be fair to the Maulanas, they have never stopped you and me from reading Islam ourselves. They never say, no, you don't obey. I'm the scholar. I'm the one who will teach you, who will tell you. I wrote this book. There was no protest. I shared it with Maulanas and ulama. They all
Okay.
agreed with it. So
Very happy.
nobody, and since quite a few Maulanas are semi-literate and they're to the old school type, therefore they suffer from ignorance. In fact, this was one of the questions I asked. Those 70% people who said that we don't practice family planning because it is against Islam. I asked them, okay, who told you that? They said our local Maulana, local Imam. We went to the local Imam and we said, okay, you are saying this. Who told you that? Where did you read it? They had no answer. They just looked around and they had no answer because it was just a myth which was being perpetuated. So then the people we met, we explained to them, look, this is wrong. This is what Islam is. If you can find any ayat or hadith against it, you tell me. In fact, I have quoted one Quranic verse. To me, it is clinching. It is addressing the youth. Okay, oh young people, you must marry when you have the wherewithal to support a family. Now, this second clause is the operational clause, very important. Now, when you have the wherewithal.
Right.
So, one person, this is the way Islam worked. Okay, the basic is Quran, which is like a constitution. Then Hadith, which is traditions of the Prophet, written or reported as what he used to do, is like the acts, the second tier of law, Islamic law. So people used to go and to the Prophet and ask him, what to do. So one young man who was very poor, he went to the Prophet, very angry, and he says, "Look, I'm very poor, very no doubt, but." Quran says, and you are saying that I should not marry because I don't have the means, but I have sexual desires. What should I do? So Prophet repeated the same word and then gave a solution. He said, until you are in a position to support a family, you should resort to fasting because fasting suppresses sexual desires.
Okay.
So even solution is given. And the third, which I mentioned in the book again, is another hadith which is directly related to us. And somebody who had a large family went to the Prophet and he said, I don't want to have any more children. I'm quite tired of it. And I want to practice al-azl, which is a withdrawal method, which was the only method known those days. But Jew says that this is a minor infanticide. That is a minor infanticide. So on that, Prophet says, no, the Jews told you wrong, the Jew told you wrong, which means it is not infanticide. Go ahead and practice al-azl. So in fact, direct permission to practice family planning is available in an authenticated hadith. So what more proof do we need?
Moving on to what is the case of the BJP, of the RSS, and other affiliated organizations of the Sangh Parivar. They cite the data of 1951 when there were about 83 or 84% Hindus in the country, and the percentage of Muslims in India was less than 10%. In the 2011 census, the last census which has been held in India, the population of the Hindus had slipped to below the 80% mark, 79.8%, and the percentage of Muslims had increased to 14.2%. Now, this is actually cited as, look, they are coming. That is the way exactly it is said.
Yes,
that from less than 10%, 15% ho gaye. And aaj karalo, get it done today, so they will be close to 20%. That is the way it is exaggerated. So definitely it means that there are some sections of Indians among whom there is a higher fertility. Now you have talked about family planning in your book. You have studied the fertility rates. You have studied. So what are your basic findings? Is it only the Muslims among whom do we find higher fertility, or is it among other communities also, and for different reasons, not just religious identity?
absolutely. Good, very good question. In fact, I have made it very clear that the population is not a Hindu population or a Muslim population issue at all. The Hindus who are illiterate and poor in Bihar and UP also produce 4 or 5 children. Whereas Muslims of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, who are more educated, they produce only 2 children. So if it was a religious belief, then Muslims anywhere would be producing 5, 7, 10 children. And I'm inclined to believe that South Indian Muslims are better Muslims than we North Indians because we find them more regular in their practice. But they have adopted family planning as good as their Hindu brethren. 1.6, 1.8, whereas Bihar Hindus are also 3.11. Now, what do you do about that? Because whether it is Muslims or Hindus, there are 3 factors which I have analyzed. One, literacy. The higher the literacy, the lower the population growth. And the most illiterate people are Muslim. Therefore, if they have a high population growth, you can't blame them. You should focus on their literacy. We have never heard the same people talking about Muslim education. And if whatever Muslim institutions exist, they are being reached by bulldozers. So, what exactly is their sincere and honest intention? We don't know. Second factor, which is very important, which cuts across all religions, income level. Higher the income, lesser the children. And Muslims are the poorest. Then, okay, when you talk of Muslim income, on the other hand, we talk of a boycott, of economic boycott of the Muslims. Even yesterday, some MP and every other day, some so-called leaders or pseudo-leaders are making these appeals that you should boycott Muslims. Now, if you do economic boycott of Muslims and they become poorer, then they will produce more children, because poor people may produce more children, because that's the only entertainment they have. The third factor, the third factor is service delivery. Obviously, if I want to do family planning, there must be a doctor, there must be a nurse, there must be a hospital, and better the service delivery, lesser the number of children. And there also we find the access of these deliveries to the Muslims is the least. So focus on that. But they will not set up a clinic, because they call every Muslim cluster as a mini Pakistan. I've heard it hundreds of times. You must have heard of it
Yes.
many times. Every cluster for them is a mini Pakistan, and nobody wants to get posted in that mini Pakistan. How will family planning progress? In such a situation, it is a miracle that those same mini Pakistans have done extremely well in adopting family planning. I studied sterilization is the only thing which is banned in Islam. Temporary methods are encouraged, and not only allowed, but they're encouraged. Despite the ban of Islam on sterilization, about 20% of Muslims have undergone sterilization also. There's so much of interest in family planning, which needs to be supported, and one should be happy. And if you allow Nilanjan, this propaganda that they are going to overtake, for 4% and growth in the last 60 years. If now from 10% they become 14, to become a majority they have to become 51%, which
That's
means
right.
they need 40 more percent. Now, if it has taken 60 years for 4%, how long will it take for 40%? 600 years. If nothing changes, it is only after 600 years that Muslim population will become majority of 51%. But
And we
that
can
is
assume that
nothing.
nothing else will change in these
If
years.
if nothing changes, but a lot has changed already. Muslims are adopting family planning faster than the Hindus and every other community, according to Government of India's own data. The NFHS 5, and my fear is that NFHS 6 will not come, because they were very unhappy with the NFHS 5 because it did not give them flattering figures of malnutrition and other thing. But let me tell you something very important. To answer this question, I consulted a friend of mine who was Vice Chancellor of Delhi University, Professor Dinesh Singh, and his colleague Ajay Kumar, to do a mathematical modeling for me. Okay, look, say if I'm giving you 60 years data, if they have increased by 4 percentage points in 60 years, how long will it take for Muslims to overtake the Hindus? His answer was, "Sorry to disappoint you, never, ever, ever." And this is the graph. The bottom graph is Muslim growth. The upper graph is Hindu growth. This is touching,
It is going up all the way.
going up
Yes,
and all. But
I
I say,
see.
"Okay, this is for the last 60 years. Why don't you tell me what will happen in the next 1,000 years?" They gave me another draft, okay, exactly the same thing. I don't know whether you can see it. The Hindu graph is going towards the sky. Muslim graph is at the ground level.
Now, what we have actually noticed in the last few decades that very, uh, in a very definitive manner, the BJP and its allies in the Sangh Parivar have argued that people from our eastern side of the borders, that is from Bangladesh, are flooding into the country, and they're coming in. But studies done by historians and demographers clearly established that the bulk of Bangladeshi immigrant population in India is Hindu in character. The second point, which is established by all these things, is that of all the people coming in, the maximum number of people have settled in West Bengal. And finally, the third point is that the Muslims who came from Bangladesh, their entire population is just about 1 million or 1.5 million, not like the way it is being presented and being created even by Mr. Modi, and said that this is the reason as to why there is this severe demographic crisis in the border areas. Now, in the last 2 months also, we have seen a a very vicious campaign by various municipal authorities, local governments, where anybody who is a Bengali and has a Muslim name is presumed to be an illegal immigrant from Bangladesh and is being driven back, being asked to provide identity figures, papers, which are all very difficult to produce suddenly at the drop of a hat. So we are seeing this kind of a very vicious targeting of the Muslims. Do you see that there is actually a plan to kind of to secure a Hindu a reaction from the Hindus? That is the way to say that, okay, these guys are, at least this government is doing a good job by sorting out the Muslims.
Yes, there is no doubt that this is a vicious campaign and a false campaign, and with a deliberate intention to make Muslims the villains and object of hatred and create communal divide. Now, coming back to the migration is a normal, natural phenomenon from time immemorial. People go in search of livelihood from one place to the other. There is domestic migration. How many Biharis and UPites have gone to south or the west of India within the country? And how many Indians have gone abroad in search of greener pastures? There was a reply to Parliament question that for the last 11 years, every year, 2 lakh Indians have been surrendering their Indian citizenship. They've gone for greener pastures and they're going to take away the jobs there. Should they also be treated with the same hostility? Actually, Trump is already showing hostility to these immigrants. Now, thirdly, if Bangla, as you said, the number is very small, okay, it is not disturbing demography as being made out. What is that, 2, 3, 4 million in 143 crore people? And in any case, not one Bangladeshi should be allowed in. But who is to stop them? The government. What is the government doing? What has it been doing? How the infiltrators have come into India? And as a result, every Muslim is getting a bad name. I feel threatened. Why? So, because this is basically congenital hatred for the Muslim is at work, and these are only excuses to harass. And remember, NRC was done in Assam. It started from Assam. It was for the rest of the country, and they found 20 lakh, 2 million people of suspected nationality and origin, and out of 20, 14 lakh were Hindus. And that is when there's brilliant solution they were looking for became a bone in their throat. What to do with the NRC if they were turned on? And as you rightly said, so many in the Hindu Bengali speaking Hindus have been also harassed, and the harassment is continuing.
No, Bengal has a large number of 27% plus is the proportion of Muslims in West Bengal. But that does not make every Bengali Muslim a Bangladeshi. Does not make everybody who is coming illegally. Even before partition, Bengal has always had both Hindus and Muslims on both sides of the border. The Tagores originally came from what is part of Bangladesh now, so you have had several eminent people from on both sides of the border. That is a different, story and part of what the Bengali psyche calls, as a trauma of more than 100 years of partition, which has been going off there. It's something, which was pointed out to me by the director, Mrinal Sen, because when I met him for the first time as a very young college student trying to interview him, he learned that I had been what is called a Provashi, that is somebody who's lived out of Bengal. So he told me that you must understand the Bengali consciousness. For that, the trauma of partition has to be understood over 100 years. I found that a very important lesson in my life. You have been in the Election Commission also. And we have had a major controversy in the last 2 months of the Election Commission, also deliberately trying to leave out certain people. Do somehow at this point, this SIR and the politics of demography, the politics of creating a big, conspiracy about the so-called demographic change, at some point do they merge? Is there some kind of a correlation between them?
Well, originally when Sir was announced, we never thought on those lines. But after you mentioned that I had missed the speech of the Prime Minister then, if you put the two and two together, they make you come to a very dangerous conclusion. So it does create suspicion, and that some people are saying all that the idea is to exclude certain types of people.
No, there are people from the civil society who have been arguing that the basic purpose of SAR is to leave out certain specific communities from various areas which are being selectively used. That is the way it is being argued. And they're saying that this process, which has been started in Bihar, is going to be rolled out in West Bengal, where elections are due in 2026. Also in Assam, where elections will also be held in 2026. So we have this entire thing mixing into straight away going into the attempt to increase the electoral prospects of the BJP. Is that the way you look at it?
Well, what is the motivation? We really don't know. If the electoral roll is ultimately cleaned up and every eligible person is on the roll and every ineligible person has been excluded, and election commission certifies on affidavit that this is now perfect roll, I'll be very happy, very delighted, and congratulate them. But if we find that there is a large scale deletion and there is a large scale inclusion of bogus names, which is a constant headache for the election commission. So I'm waiting for the results. Finally, and they will come. एक हिंदी की कहावत के नाई नाई बाल कित्ते, वो कहता है श्रीमान जी सामने आए जाते हैं, थोड़ी देर में आपके सामने आ ही जाएंगे. तो आपको पता लग जाएगा जब फाइनल फिगर्स आएंगी, उसमें अगर देखेंगे 1.5 करोड़ 1 करोड़ डिलीट हो गए, so it will raise shindy. And if the result is everything is nice and hunky-dory and clean, well and good, congratulations.
Well, we shall wait and see. Thank you very much, Quraishi Saab, for explaining this rather complicated issue quite well. And we will possibly come back to you once we know the contours of what this demographic mission is going to be all about, how much of it is actually witch hunt is, how much of it is actually needed for the country. We will take a fresh look at it, as always, with an open mind. Thank you very much for coming and joining me on this program.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.